Good afternoon/evening, everybody. Dundee United 0, Celtic 0, post-match reaction. The champions drop points as Kyogo and co draw a blank at Tannadice. My name is Ryan McGinley from the house. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Tony, who is outside Tannadice in the car park, I believe. Tony, what's your thoughts on that game? Celtic drop points the second time this season.
I just think it was very flat, wasn't it? It was very flat from the moment the team sheet was announced, wasn't it? And you always felt that one goal would be enough to win it, but it's a game of very few chances. Celtic were restricted to, say long-range efforts at 20 yards, efforts to go. One clear-cut chance, Kyogo 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, should do better. Miscontrol, keeper kind of managed to scramble it clear. Yeah, 2 points dropped, Ryan. And again, kind of this time last season where they had a wee wobble, wasn't it? Around about Christmas time. And or December time, and you're just hoping that it's not the same. They've not been firing on all cylinders, as we spoke about pre-match before. Since the Leipzig game, it's been a steady dip in performances, and I don't know, I just felt that Dundee United never really offered much going forward. That game was there for the taking and just couldn't get it over the line, and I just feel it's a big opportunity lost to stay 11 points ahead.
Yeah, I would completely agree with everything that you've said there. I do agree with the notion that it was 2 points dropped because Celtic were completely dominant for the duration of the game. And I think the big but is that they didn't make enough chances in front of goal. Jack Walton had maybe 2-3 saves to make in the whole game. I think Celtic had 3 shots on target. With the amount of possession that Celtic had, something wasn't translating. I think they were something like 0.76 in XG, so they were averaging just under a goal. So they probably played about what their average was, given the chances that were made. But Celtic did have, even though there was chances that didn't hit the target, I think there was chances that Celtic should have done better with. I think if Hatate in the first half, the shot that goes just past the post, the far post, that maybe he could play into Kyogo. Although for me, I think he makes the right decision because Kyogo, in between Kyogo, there's 2 defenders that are trying to rush at Hatate. So I think the better option was for him to shoot because it could have been intercepted. Yeah. You've mentioned it before, Tony, that chance that Kyogo had towards the end where he kicks the ground instead of the football. For me, he had about 2 or 3 gimme chances that we would have scored earlier on, or maybe even last season or the season before. Maybe there needs to be a wider conversation about Kyogo, and the fact is he's not scoring those goals that you would put him down. You put your house on him scoring a couple of seasons ago. But that chance in particular, great layoff by Adam Ida, who made a big difference when he came on. And it was just poor from the Japanese striker, a player that you expect to be clinical in front of goal, and he wasn't there.
I tell you, it was also poor as well. See Yang's pass, or just ball into nobody. It wasn't a pass and it wasn't a shot.
It was in between.
He had time to look up and pick out players. They were queuing up to put that in the back of the net, Ryan. And I don't care what you do. See, if you're trying to impress a manager, that you should be starting more games or being more impactful when you're on the park, you make sure you play that to a player. It's a tap-in. It's a simple tap-in. And he did neither. He did neither cross it, nor pass it, or find a teammate. And I was really, really disappointed with that particular passage of play, because I thought, Yang, that was one of the crucial openings in the game, because he had acres of space and he had lots of time to pick somebody out. And I'm not singling him out. I'm just singling that moment out where a wee bit more composure and control and execution of the actual pass, a pass or a shot, because you might even have got a shot away yourself. But it was really, really poor. And I just thought, and to nobody's surprise inside the stadium, when he got hooked after an hour, you were just shrugging your shoulders, because he was largely anonymous, but he wasn't alone in that. So,
perhaps controversially, Tony, I would say that Palma made much more of an impact than Yang in his half an hour than Yang did in his 60 minutes on the park. Now he's getting a lot of stick online, Palma, for his performance, where I think it's getting misguided, that criticism. I think the criticism should be at Kyogo, if I'm being honest, for missing that chance, for missing the chance that he scuffed. There was another one that came to him and he missed the ball completely and it hits his other leg and it goes into the keeper's arms. It was a really poor opportunity missed. It was just not his day whatsoever. And I think that maybe, I don't know if it was maybe hindering the team if he stayed on the park. Maybe they should have just taken him off and put Arne Engels on earlier. Now, he got a shot away 5 minutes towards the end. He did make a bit of an impact when he came on. But, Tony, that brings me on to my next sort of conversation starter. You're £11 million player. We're going to continue to talk about an £11 million player only getting on for 5 minutes at Tannadice. Celtic are chasing a goal after making a goal at Hampden against Rangers. I don't know what you feel about that, but for me, I think he should have been on at least 15, maybe 20 minutes earlier.
Well, Celtic were under strength, right? And there's several key players, first team key players were missing, but you still had quality in the bench, Ryan. You saw the way the game was going. It was very much like Pittodrie, wasn't it? That you need a moment of class and a moment of quality to provide a goal. You've got 11 million on the bench in Arne Engels. You've got Paulo Bernardo. You've got Adam Ida. You've got Lewis Palmer. They are 4 game changers. It wasn't happening for Yang. It wasn't happening for Kyogo. He decided that it wasn't happening for Luke McCowan, so he took him off as well. And wasn't happening much for Hatate either, was it? Get those 4 players on, Ryan, earlier, and give them a chance to feel their way into the game and create that opportunity. I mean, Adam Ida's layoff to Kyogo for that, for the one-on-one's brilliant. I'd rather it was the other way around. For that. Yeah, I was rather the other way around because I reckon Adam Ida would have buried it.
Me too.
So you're right. There are many conversations to be had. One about Kyogo, one about Arne Engels, and maybe there's a conversation to be had about the manager today. Maybe called it wrong. In a wider context, I don't normally, and I'm not having a pop at him per se. I think he went where he needs must, and as I say, lots of players were missing through injury and illness, but maybe didn't react as quick as he should have in terms of the fact that Celtic needed a goal and were toiling, because it was a turgid first half. I mean, really turgid. And then the pattern was the same in the second, where Celtic kind of dominated the ball, had territorial advantage, but they weren't creating anything, were they? And you've got those those players sitting on the bench, and you think to yourself, one of them's got to create something, hasn't he?
I just, not that it baffles me, but you've spent so much money on one player. I know he's not the finished article, but at the same time, you spent a lot of money for this player. You'd expect him to get more than 5 minutes. It would have been around about 11 minutes with the 5 minutes added, or the 6 minutes added and the 5 minutes left, because he came on in the 85th minute, which I thought was, that was quite surprising, to be honest. I was like, you bring him on with 20, 25 minutes to go. I think Hatate's race was run, and I thought he had the thing about the midfield for me, and this is just my personal opinion, I don't know if you'll agree with this or not, I thought the midfield actually started okay, and they waned as the half went on, particularly the first half. I thought Luke McCowan and Hatate were getting into really good areas alongside Callum McGregor. Callum McGregor gets stopped at the edge of the box. I think he scores. If he gets a shot away, that's his sort of sweet spot that he's been hitting all season. It's a push. The guy gets a booking, it's fair enough. But Luke McCowan, I thought, started well. And then all of a sudden he get involved in petty little, scrambles with Dundee United players. There was a couple of VAR checks, and there's a VAR check for a sort of off-the-ball incident that he had with a player. Hatate had a VAR incident for a tackle that was probably a booking, nothing more.
Which is why I think he took Luke McCowan off.
He was getting too involved in the game emotionally, in my opinion.
Channeling the aggression that he had in the wrong way, and I think that was wise management. And I'm not having a go at Brendan Rodgers per se. I'm just saying maybe he could have made the substitutions a bit earlier, because everything about today was flat. How I feel about the manager. I think he's tremendous, but I just think today it needed a spark, didn't it? And I think the spark wasn't provided by any of the team that started. And it wasn't provided by the manager when you were looking to him to provide that too, by making maybe substitutions like as things weren't happening. And by the time they started to kind of react. It was too late. It was kind of backs to the wall stuff. Well, not so much back to the walls. It was kind of like desperation stuff, wasn't it? And he felt, I think Celtic could have played there for a long time and still not scored, Ryan. That's my own thoughts, because they just never really. And there was a real rearguard action by Dundee United, and they'll get plaudits and praise for the way they played. But I tell you what, I wouldn't want to watch that every other week. I've got to be
No,
honest.
and to be fair, Dundee United don't play like that every week, but they
Yeah,
had to change their game for the opposition that they were playing against. But fair play to Jim Goodwin and his players. To a man, I thought they were tremendous, and they kept, particularly the middle of the park, they kept that so rigid and tight for
yeah,
players like Hatate, McCowan, McGregor, Engels, Bernardo. They all struggled. Celtic have an embarrassment of riches in the middle of the park. That's where a lot of Celtic's goals and build-up play will start from. Unfortunately for Celtic, they just couldn't get the required oomph and the required
yeah,
contributions from those players. I think a big miss today, and it's obvious when you take double digits in goals and assists already this season, you take Nicholas Kuhn out of this team, and Celtic are a weaker team because of it. They don't have that strength. Despite Maeda's effectiveness in some games, I don't think today was his best game at all. There was a good header that he had in the second half that Jack Walton put over the
yeah,
bar. But there was a couple of chances in the first half, particularly where I thought that he could have maybe stuck a head or stuck a leg on one of those chances, that fell through to him. Gamble, go for it. If you
yeah.
get a booking, then so be it. But at least you've made that attempt to go for the ball. I thought it was a really frustrating game for him, especially with the fact that late in the first half, I think it was Ryan Strain, who was formerly at St Mirren, was on a booking against him. See there, that is the moment that you would want Maeda to be up against his man and really making him take chances on a booking, on a caution.
Yeah, I think everything about today it was off kilter, wasn't it? Off colour. It was just something wasn't right, and you just hope that it's a kind of bad day at the office. Bad day at the office. You haven't been beat certainly, but it kind of feels like it, doesn't it? Because you just expect a hell of a lot better from Celtic. Performance it just didn't get going at all, and it's frustrating. That's the word for it. It's really, really frustrating because you can't quite put your finger on why they've gone from the high of Leipzig to kind of slowly plateauing and going down the way in terms of the performance. They got away with it against Aberdeen. They got away with it against Hibernian, who created a lot of chances. Didn't get away with it today. It happens, and only for the second time this season. But even then, when they played Aberdeen, they bombarded Aberdeen and had all sorts of chances. Today, you just didn't feel like that. Normally, I have a gut feeling that Celtic are going to score, Ryan. I didn't have that today. I don't know if you did, and I don't know if any of the other Celtic supporters did. I just didn't feel that it was going to happen today. Just felt that it was going to be one of those days. From the moment I saw the team sheet, I was like, oh. And then you spoke about substitutes coming on, and we said, well, we hope we don't have to, and that we're not in that position, but we were in that position. I saw the wee Dundee United approached it. I thought, they're not coming out to play. They're coming for a 0-0 draw here, and if they can, possibly nick it. But they were very rarely up the park. So I was left frustrated today.
I think it was a frustrating game. I think that's the main word that's getting used after the game was frustration, with all the dominance that Celtic had on the ball, with the shots off target as well as a couple on target. You'd think that they would be able to at least fashion one massive opportunity,
Yeah.
but you can't really think of one apart from Kyogo miskicking. But what was Brendan Rodgers like after the game? Because I know you were at the press conference
He was
after the Dundee United
very
game. How was he?
philosophical, to be honest. He said that it was still a great start to the season because it's only the second time they've dropped points. He mentioned the fact that Alistair Johnston, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Austin Trusty were ill. Alistair Johnston still didn't feel right after the League Cup final, and Nicholas Kuhn felt a twinge in his knee, which makes him doubtful for Thursday against Motherwell, Boxing Day game against Motherwell. So I like you, I felt he was a huge miss. I think Nicholas Kuhn would have been the difference maker today. And
He was against Ross County in a similar game like that.
Yeah, he said he hoped that Nicholas Kuhn would be okay for Thursday, but he felt a twinge in his knee, and he was asked if it would be more long term, and he said he wouldn't know. He would get a better prognosis tomorrow, or a diagnosis, or whatever, a clearer picture. But again, that's another concern because that's came from nowhere, hasn't it? Kuhn just missing the trip. and you say to yourself, well, he's been a vital 23 goal contributions, Ryan, 12 goals and 11 assists. And they missed him today because I think it's a kind of game that Nicholas Kuhn would have shown and attacking players and going at his man and getting it. And Yang was given that opportunity today and just didn't grasp it. I look at that one that Yang, we spoke about earlier. Imagine Nicholas Kuhn in that position. That's in the net or he finds a player, Ryan. He gets an assist or a goal there. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, that's the difference, and it's probably something that Celtic need to address in January because they can't be reliant on one player to do all of the offensive creativity, whether that be making goals or scoring goals. So I think they've got to get somebody else. It's unfortunate because Forrest would have played today if he wasn't injured after the cup final, and even Forrest in that position, you would back him to find a man or score a goal in that position to keep up that record that he's got in terms of consecutive goals. You would expect him to, but with Yang, I think he's a good dribbler of the ball, but I think his end delivery or his end product leaves a lot to be desired at times. He needs something tangible, and it's not coming at the moment. And he's getting more chances, but nothing's coming for him.
He can do things with the ball, can't he? But what he judged on ultimately, your end product, and the end product's not there. And you can beat a man lovely, great. I'm not disputing that. But see, if your end product's not there, you're no use to a creative team like Celtic, and you're no use to Celtic as a wide player, because you have to be able to, one, beat a man and then produce either that in terms of goals or assists. And, he's obviously got something because the manager watched him in training, why he's persevered with him. But like you, I don't see Celtic not being in the market for a winger next month. Balakusha keeps being mentioned, and we were speaking about that last week. And I think it's just to sort of say to these guys, look, your game time might be limited, but here's the reason why. And Palmer was slightly better than Yang when he came on, had a bigger impact per se, but I just think the fans' patience is kind of slowly but surely snapping and running out with the
you
pair
hear
of
that
them.
with the fans, and I heard that today. It came through quite clearly on the broadcast. I was watching it on Sky Sports, but you could hear it when Palmer did something, and it's more vociferous than when other players do it, and that's because I think there's a preconceived idea of what Palmer's going to do, or the thought or the notion that Palmer isn't going to do anything. And that can't help a player. It can't help a player kick on. Now, I think that he will leave the club next month and move on to pastures new, maybe go to the MLS. But, it was a big moment for him today, and it was trying to make things happen. It can't help when the fans are like that, but I understand at the same time, if you don't have confidence in a player, because the same thing happened with Mikey Johnson last season. Mikey Johnson, who's scored 2 goals today for West Brom. Not that I'm talking about that whatsoever, because I know that people will start mentioning stuff like that. But yeah, Palmer, he's got that when the fans, not the fans are necessarily against you, but when the fans don't necessarily believe that you're going to do something, it's very difficult to get back from that.
He also had a crack at goal that I think one of the Dundee United players threw his body in front of, or his head. Is
that the curling shot that he cut in?
It was a really good effort. It was goal bound, or certainly on target. So, you have to credit that as well in terms of Dundee United doing stuff like that. But I don't know, like Yang and like Palmer, I just don't feel that they're going to do anything when they get the ball. I've got a low confidence bar with them. Maybe because that's the way they've made me feel with their performances or contributions. Whereas whenever Kuhn gets the ball in that position, or Maeda does, I'm kind of like half expecting something to happen. With Palmer and Yang, I'm hoping something happens. I'm daring them in my head to say, prove me wrong, do something, pick something out of the ordinary here. And more often than not, they don't. And I think, I think it's going to be a big month in terms of the futures at the club. I can see both leaving for pastures new, whether that be on loan or permanently. Because I think Celtic will prioritise bringing in another wide player. They have to, because you look at today with Forrest and Kuhn not there, and they used the wide outlets a lot, and they couldn't create one. There wasn't one decent cross flung in. There was the Yang moment, which a more clinical player would have had an assist or a goal, Ryan. There's no two ways about it. You can't shy away from that. So, but it's just really, really flat for me, Ryan. Really flat. 2 F words, flat, frustrating. I think
Glad
that's
you're using those F words.
yeah, and the sense that they're meant to be used with, not but and I don't know about you, but you don't have a divine right to win football matches. You got to earn that right. Celtic didn't earn that right today, and they paid a heavy price for a substandard and a below par for performance. But you would be kidding yourself on if you say to yourself that you didn't see it coming, because they've kind of been getting away with it since Leipzig.
Yeah, apart from a decent performance against not a decent performance, a really good performance against Ross County, particularly that first half where they blew them away completely. I can't really point towards a performance that's really been outstanding since the Leipzig game, apart from that Ross County game. And even then, they took the foot off the gas in the second half because they could. But, the performances, that it has been in the post, this sort of result, in my opinion. I think we've all been talking about it. Celtic got away with one last week in terms of penalty shootouts, complete lottery. But that's, if you count, well, obviously you'll count the League Cup final as a win because you won on penalties.
Yeah.
But you've drawn your last 3 games, isn't it now? So you've drew against Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League. You draw against Rangers, but you win on penalties. So I guess that's a win. But it was a draw after regulation time and extra time, and then you draw today. So it's all about Celtic getting back to winning ways on Thursday against Motherwell, isn't it?
Well, they have to. I mean, there's no two ways about it. And the manager mentioned that he was glad to be at home over the festive period, back-to-back games against Motherwell and St Johnstone. Now, you'll be there for both of them. You want to see an upsurge in performance. I know I do. I want tempo, I want zip, I want a bit of zest, I want a bit of vim, a bit of vigour. I want 2 really good performances before we go to Ibrox. I have to say that. I want the ideal preparation for going to Ibrox, because it's no use getting away with it, and then limping on to Ibrox, because then you put yourself under real pressure. Because if you lose that, the gap becomes 6 points, albeit if you beat Motherwell and St Johnstone. And so, you're an opportunity today to just keep the pressure on at the top of the table. It's been relaxed slightly. I know they haven't gotten beat. I get that, but they have to tighten up. They have to be better. They have to be more clinical up top in the final third. And you said we have to have a conversation about Kyogo. Is it time to give Adam Ida a run of matches? In preparation for Ibrox going there, and give him Motherwell, St Johnstone, and then Rangers. See how we feel about it. Because at this minute in time, as you say, Kyogo's just off it, isn't he?
Yeah, for whatever reason, he's not firing on all cylinders at this present moment, and it's something that he needs to address. Now, you'd back him to score against Rangers at Ibrox. He's that sort of player. But at the moment, you look at that chance that he got today, or the couple of chances that he got today, one was a lot more clear-cut than the other. It's great play from Ida into Kyogo. He scuffs he doesn't even get contact on the ball. He kicks the ground instead. It's a really disappointing one. Just before we finish off, Tony, I just wanted to talk about a couple of positives from the game to end it on a bit of a positive note. I thought, despite all of the talk before the game, worrying about the defence, I thought for the most part Scales and Welsh were quite solid at the back alongside Ralston and Greg Taylor. I thought Greg Taylor was one of Celtic's better attackers in the second half when he was going into the middle and playing that inverted role. He was trying to make things happen, although maybe potentially Bailly could have came on and became more of an outball. But defensively speaking, it's another clean sheet for Celtic in the league. It's a good habit to be in despite only drawing the game.
Yeah, excellent habit to be in clean sheets. But I think Liam Scales and Stephen Welsh could have played with their slippers on today. They had the cigars out. Dundee United had no intention of getting forward, showed a lack of ambition. Dundee United played for a 0-0 and got it, Ryan. That's what they wanted from today, a point. And fair play to them, they did it the hard way and they had to dig in. I get all that, but they have the top scorer, or one of the top scorers in the league, don't they?
He's the top scorer at the moment, Sam Dalby.
Yeah. Never saw him couldn't have picked him out in an ID parade today, Ryan. It's just like, yeah, I just didn't see him, and and that was a lot of that had to do with the way Welsh and Scales played him, but not one shot at goal did he have, not one kind of incident where I thought he's turned him or he's looked sharp up against him. The two of them were just like, no problem. And for Welsh, if it's to be Welsh's last, kind of games at the club, he has shown potential suitors that he can do a job. And fair play to him. It's easy for guys, but Brendan Rodgers trusted him to do a job. And, and I think Brendan Rodgers addressed it on Friday and said he's part of the parcel of the fabric of the club, and part of the furniture. That was and he said, and he knows he's ingrained in the culture of this club. So even when he comes to him and says to him, bringing him in from the cold, he still had that 100% attitude, application, and commitment to the cause today. And he'll be chuffed at keeping a clean sheet. And as I say, if he's winding down his Celtic career, then so be it. Somebody will look at him today and think, do you know what? You can still do a job, and a very good job at that. And Liam Scales as well. The two of them I thought they were never in any trouble, because I didn't think Dundee United had any ambition or, any fervour to get forward. And I'm glad about that, because had they did, it might have been a totally different game.
Yeah, but absolutely.
So I think they were just content to sit in and get the 0-0, which they got. Which, if that's your ambition and that's what you set out to do, then you have to give them credit for that, because they did it.
Yeah, I think that potentially if they got more of an attack in the game, then they could have tested Liam Scales and Stephen Welsh, but I think they were pretty predetermined. I think before even the team sheets came out, they had their tactics, and they weren't going to waver away from those tactics, which it's completely fair, and they were vindicated for it with their nothing each draw, which was a good result for them, and they'll stay in the pack for that 4th place spot that they're going for at the moment. So Jim Goodwin's doing a great job with them. For a promoted side, they're doing really well at the moment, and I see them continue doing that and into the new year. They've got good players, more defensive today, but I think they'll give a lot of teams problems. So I think they were deserving of their point at the end of the day. Tony, is there anything else you want to talk about before we end off this stream? Or nothing each game, we've still managed to get 27 minutes out of you after that.
No, do you know what? I just found it was one of those occasions where there's stock phrases for a reason, but it was a no-score bore, wasn't it, really?
Mm-hmm. It was a. Do you know, the second half I thought was better than the first half, because Celtic actually looked as if they were going to push for a goal that never came, but they did look more bright. But the first half was just drab completely, apart from a couple of chances that Celtic should have done better with. That Cal McGregor chance, I'd like to see if he actually managed to get some contact on the ball where that would have ended up, because that's his area. But apart from that, it was enough in each game before Christmas. You're just hoping that Celtic can bounce back on Boxing Day.
Yeah, as I say, normally there's an expectancy and a vibrancy, and you think to yourself, they'll score in a minute, it's coming. I'm not worried. From the whole of the second half, I was just thinking, it ain't happening, and it didn't happen. And it's up to Celtic now to entertain Motherwell on Boxing Day and make things happen. And also, you need the crowd to play their part that day as well, right? You can't let it get flat. If there is lulls like that, you need the crowd to play their part and G the players up as well. But again, they'll be G'd up by the product on the park as well. So we all know that it has to be better. They didn't get beat, kept another clean sheet. It was an understrength side. Conditions were actually horrendous. You can maybe hear the wind buffing my car about as we speak. But both teams were playing in it. So it's just, you have to deal with these things.
They've played in worse this season, Tony. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah, you have to deal with these things, especially at this time of year, and they just didn't deal with it well today. I just didn't think from the get-go that they dealt with a set of conditions today, which is not normal, and you just hope that that's it for the festive period. We know that the results have to be better.
Yep, Absolutely, but they know what they have to do, and we'll be back tomorrow to discuss it in a little bit more detail, Hamish and I. So until then, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Tony, you get yourself home and get yourself settled.
Thank you.
Good day's work for you. Shame you
Warm
couldn't
up.
bring any goals back with 3 points back with you, but them's the
I'd have
breaks.
I'd have
Sometimes,
preferred that.
listen. I went to Zagreb and they get zero. They get one. They brought a point back and 0 goals as well. So I know
Yeah,
you're feeling
know the
even
feeling.
more. So thank you to everybody that's joined us. Sorry we couldn't bring any comments up on this one. We just wanted to talk about the game as quickly as we could. It was one of those games. If you get your comments in tomorrow, I'm sure Hamish will read them tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. If you want to subscribe to us and support us just that little bit more, press that subscribe button. Completely free. Thank you to everybody, and you'll be notified when we go live with videos, post match, as well as other videos throughout the year and the year to come. If you want to support us that little bit more, you can become a member for £2.99 a month. You'll receive early video access, priority comments, and exclusive members chat function on the website this evening. There's an instant analysis from Tony, player ratings from myself, a couple of Q&As from Brendan Rodgers. There was no players that we're talking at. I'm guessing that they'll be embargoed until later on. There was none on Sky Sports either. So if you're looking for that, that's where they're at the moment. Guys, thank you very much to everybody. We'll speak to you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. Until then, enjoy the rest of your night. And yeah, we'll see you all in the morning. Cheers, guys.